beautiful friends, it's Amanda here and I am so excited I can finally film this video. Today we're talking about the ColourPop birthday collection. It's their 5th birthday. They went big with their birthday collection this year. I am gonna film 2 videos because this collection is so large and I wanna make sure I give you really good details. I wanna show you swatches of everything, and I definitely want to do my typical swatch and review with a tutorial type of video for the palette. There is a palette, it's a new 9-pan palette. This is Main Squeeze. How cute is this little like watermelon packaging? The whole birthday collection is watermelon themed and I think it's so freaking cute. Here's what the inside looks like. It is a red monochromatic palette, and I know you're looking at this saying, that's not red, that's gold. Just wait until you see how the shadow swatches and performs. You are gonna be really surprised. Obviously, this is one of their standard 9-pan palettes. It has the typical packaging with the heavy duty plastic. It has a locking clasp closure, so it's not magnetic. The shade names are pictured on a sticker on the back of the palette, as well as printed inside the palette next to the pans. That's always a feature that I enjoy. There is a nice big mirror in here, typical of their 9-pan palettes and all their palettes. This does not come with a brush or any kind of applicator. I believe it will be the same price as their other 9-pan palettes, so that's $12 US. I also believe that this particular piece will be permanent. The rest of the birthday collection will likely be limited edition, but I believe that this palette is being introduced with the birthday collection, but will remain part of their permanent line. At least I hope so. When we take a look at the shades inside, we do have 5 mattes and 4 metallic shades. I mean, the nail painting to match the palette could not have gotten any better. Like, that is... Anyway, I'm getting distracted. A few of these shades have the dreaded not intended for eye use warning. This one called Home Slice, and then these 2, Like It's Hot and Maraschino, all have the eye safety warning, likely because of the red dyes that they contain. This is something that I've spoken about many times on my channel, so I'm sorry if you keep hearing me say this over and over again. But speaking about these types of warnings, anything to do with your health and safety, particularly eye safety. I used to be an ophthalmic assistant, so I'm pretty focused on any eye safety warnings. Certain red dyes will carry this not eye safe warning because they tend to stain the skin, and according to the FDA, that makes them not eye safe. But we do know that many people also have an allergic reaction to these dyes, so it can kind of go either way. Maybe you're somebody that just gets stained by them. Maybe you're somebody that has an allergic reaction. Either way, the best thing that you can do is do a test patch. So before you go in with these red dyes on your eyes, I say the inside of the arm is a good choice because it has this really delicate, like thin skin. So do a test patch, apply some of the shades and just let them sit, try and wipe them off. See what happens, see if they stain your skin, see if you get like little bumps that break out. This is the best way for you to protect yourself. As you can see, I am wearing the shades on my eyes. Personally, I don't have an allergic reaction, and as long as I prime with my paint pot, I don't get any staining because that thick eye base really creates a good barrier between the shadow and my skin. At the end of the day, the most important thing is that you are healthy and safe. That's the most important thing to me. So that's why I am going on and on about this. I just want you to be happy and healthy. That's all I got. Since we're talking about the eye products from this collection, I do just want to bring up the Birthday Super Shock. They do a Birthday Super Shock every year and it always has birthday in the name. This one's called Birthday Treat. It has this really cute watermelon special packaging. I mean, the detail is just adorable. I believe this shadow will retail for $6. Super Shocks are now $6 instead of $5. It's the exact same style of the screw top little pots. It's just specially designed packaging. The shade Birthday Treat, while it is very glittery and one might expect this to be the ultra glitter finish, this is technically a pressed pigment, and as you can see, it says here Super Shock pressed pigment, not for eye area. I have this all over my eyeball as usual, but I just want to point out again, the Super Shock likely contains those red dyes, and this is not intended for the eye area. A few months ago, I did do a big video all about Super Shock, so I won't go too in depth about how to apply these, but I do want to show you a quick swatch of this. I always recommend applying Super Shock shadows with the finger. This is the Birthday Treat Super Shock shadow. Very, very pretty. This is a very pinky, peachy, super, super glittery color. I love it. Now let's jump into the swatches of the main Squeeze palette. I will be doing both finger and brush swatches as always. I'll be swatching the shadows on the inside of my arm with no primer down first. The finger swatches will be on top, and then the corresponding brush swatches will be pictured below. For the brush swatches, just like always, I'll be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean the brush off in between each shade using my Viramona color switch to prevent transfer between shadows. Just a reminder here that the top swatches are done with a finger and the bottom swatches are done with a flat eyeshadow brush. While I do think that these brush swatched really nicely, they look almost exactly the same as the finger swatches. I did get a decent amount of fallout, especially with the shade Home Slice, while I was brush swatching with it. So I do want to point that out since it's not immediately visible in a swatch. I did want to point out to you that after all those swatches, the finger and brush swatches, I don't have any staining on my arm at all. Now that you've seen all the swatches, let's jump into a quick eyeshadow tutorial using the main Squeeze palette and the new Birthday Treat Super Shock shadow, and then I'll wrap up all my thoughts on these products at the end. As usual, the first thing I'm going to do is prime my eyes with my MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Then I just used a little bit of my setting powder on top for a nice smooth surface to work on. I'm going in with Froze first to lay down a transition area. So many people ask me about this brush because I use this brush or one like it in every single tutorial. This is the ColourPop blending brush and I love it. I have like 10 of them. Best brush ever. Next, I'm going to be mixing Seed Money and Red Bottoms. These are the two deeper matte shades. This time I'm using a smaller fluffy brush to apply, and then I'm going back with that blending brush with no additional product just to work all those matte shades together. Now I'm going to mix some metallic shades using Home Slice and Baywatch, just mixing those together on my finger and dabbing that all over the outer half of my lid. I went back with my blending brush one more time to smooth the edges of those metallic shades. Then I used Seed Money on a small flat brush and I just wiped that right along my lower lash line, just sort of smudged that down there for a little balance. I used my finger to apply maraschino all over the rest of my lid, and I do feel that these two reds kind of looked pretty similar on the lid. Then I took Juicy Fruit and applied that with a small little detail brush. I wanted to add more depth to the lid, so I went back with Red Bottoms just a little bit on that outer corner. Then, of course, I wanted to use the Super Shock, used my finger to apply that to the inner part of the eye, curled my lashes, and added some of my Wonder Beauty Mile High Club mascara. That's the finished look. I think this turned out really pretty. It's very simple to achieve, but it still has a lot of impact. I do feel I struggled to get variation to show up on the eye, but overall, I really like the way that this eyeshadow turned out. Overall, I have kind of a mixed bag of feelings and opinions about the palette in particular. I really like the Super Shock shadow, and I'm just gonna get that out of the way really quickly. I think this is pretty. I love Super Shock shadows, love the special packaging. I don't love that it's not eye safe. I know that's frustrating a lot of people right now that ColourPop keeps making these non-eye safe eye products, like their glitters and now these red shadows. I guess you kind of have to make your own opinion about that. Like I've said in the past, it doesn't really bother me because I don't have reactions or problems with staining. So I like the Super Shock shadow. That's it. I like it. Now, this palette When I first laid eyes on this, I was just going crazy for this concept. It's such a like fun, summery, bright. I just think about like picnics and relaxing and celebrating. I don't know. I love the concept. I love the watermelon theme. And when I saw this palette, when I first opened it, I was just losing it. I was so excited. I know everybody's really going crazy for these monochromatic palettes. So when I first saw this, I was like, yes, 100% yes, I love this. I'm gonna love it. The more I played with it, I did find some things that I don't like about it. So that's why I end up feeling kind of middle of the road. I do think first and foremost that the matte shades, particularly these three and this one called Big Gulp, they're very similar. They come off looking very similar once they're applied, especially with the brush swatches. They're just this like mid-tone orangey, and I don't think there's enough variation in those mattes. That's honestly my biggest gripe with this palette is even though it's monochromatic, and I know that if they switched it up too much, people would be coming for them in the comments saying this isn't monochromatic. But for me, I feel like a lot of these shades are just too repetitive, and I would have liked to see a little something else. Even like a frosty baby pink or another one of these like shifting duochrome shades. Like this gold to red duochrome is really, really cool. And even the deepest shade in here, this one called Red Bottoms, it's not that dark. I feel like they could have gone even further with that to really punch up the depth you can get out of this palette, because at the end of the day, this lack of variation makes me feel that this eye look that I'm wearing today is pretty much all I'm gonna get out of this palette. And I could probably get this same look with like 3 or 4 eyeshadows. I don't really need a 9 pan to do that. I was especially surprised by how like mid-tone this palette was on the heels of the Just My Luck launch, where we got a good amount of variety in here. I'm not huge on green, so this wasn't like my favorite palette in the world, but I do think they did a good job of giving us variations. We're seeing a bright lime, like almost neon, and almost pastel, some really earthy tones, some really bright jewel tones, and even though every single one of these is green, there is a good amount of variation in here, and I feel like Main Squeeze is kind of lacking that. Personally, I would have liked at least one really, really light shade, at least one shade darker than this Red Bottoms shade. I understand there's only so much you can do and keep it monochromatic. So while I like this eye look, I'm not losing it for this palette like I did for the purple one. It's my pleasure. That's still one of my favorites. This is pretty. I know it was really highly requested, and I do think people are really gonna like this. I will find this useful, but I will probably end up mixing it in with another palette so that I can get a little bit more variety in tone and depth. I would say overall, formula-wise, 8 out of the 9 in here are on par with the ColourPop formula, which if you know me, you know that ColourPop eyeshadows are one of my favorite formulas of all time. The only one that I had a little trouble with is this primary red metallic shade called Home Slice. This one was pretty powdery for me, and I did experience a lot of fallout, so I would just recommend applying Home Slice with your finger instead of a brush to minimize that fallout. I'm sure some of you guys are surprised to see me giving this a sort of mediocre review. I like it. I'm not in love with it. I definitely don't hate it. It's just kind of in the middle for me. There will be a second video about this collection. I'm not sure if this one will go up first or if the other video will go up first. I'm gonna try my best to get both videos out as close to the launch as possible so that you can see all of these products before they go for sale. If any of the facts change, I'll try my best to keep everything updated. I am pre-filming this by a few days. We all know ColourPop tends to change their minds about things, so I will do my best to make this video as timely and accurate as possible. Now I want to hear what you think about this palette and the Super Shock Shadow. Are you really, really excited for this birthday collection? Is this monochromatic palette everything you've been asking for? Or do you feel a little bit more lukewarm towards it like me? I always love to hear what you guys think about things, so please leave a comment down below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. by the so excited that whoa, I almost just broke it. The shade matching of the polish to the products is very dead on. Can we all just applaud my commitment? Oh man. Probably makes me look crazy, but I don't even care. It makes me happy. Look at me go. Just wipe it on my pants. It's fine. I didn't even thank you for watching. What kind of terrible YouTuber am I? Super shocked. It's tradition now. I have to pronounce it. You can't even make this stuff up. What the heck? I mispronounced the word mispronounce. This is a new level. It's a new low. It's all right. Just gotta laugh it off. It's all good. I really like this So Juicy gloss. When I saw how red it was, I was like, ooh, but it looks really pretty on the lips. Main squeeze. It's my main squeeze. This palette will not be my main squeeze, but maybe it'll be yours. That sounded a lot shadier than it was meant to be. Ugh. Sorry. I get so frustrated when I can't talk, and I'm just so excited and I stumble over my words. Okay,